It's rolling. Yeah, the intro. Hello, and welcome again to Frack the Canon. I am René Mendoza, and as always, my co-host from LA, CJ McCree. How are you, sir?
Hi there.
All right. So this episode can be a fun one, right, CJ? DCTV, DC.
DCTV.
Before we get going, something I want to bring up. We're gonna make this a little bit of a drinking game. Also, every time I touch my face, take a drink, milk or whatever you have to prefer. CJ says like or something, or take a drink. What do you think, CJ? Any other rules we should know add to the drinking game?
Like something more, maybe?
Like what though? What do you recommend?
Derivative.
Perfect. Derivative. Yes, derivative. When we say derivative, CJ says like or I touch my face, take a swig of your favorite drink. Alrighty. So CJ, today it's gonna be talking about the DC TV shows. Start with Gotham, because I don't watch Gotham. Do you watch Gotham? But we'll talk about it. What do you think? So let's talk about what it is. It is a prequel about Commissioner Gordon going up the ranks of GCPD. I saw the first half season and I stopped watching because I didn't care for it at all. I want to see a show about Batman being Batman. What do you think, CJ?
Well, as I think about many things, you're completely wrong. No, I'm joking.
That is the way a relationship goes.
Gotham, basically what Gotham is, you explained it pretty well. It's a story about Gotham pre-Batman. That's essentially what the sales pitch was. You know what I mean? This is a story. This is like all the previews they kept saying, like, before the Penguin, before the Riddler, before Batman. This is Gotham. But I actually like it.
Really?
It's kind of goofy in a way because it's Gotham. You know what I mean? Like basically, like to me, it ends up kind of being like a. If you've seen the movie Chinatown,
Yes.
it's a bit like a show version of Chinatown because it's kind of noir. It's a definitely like a gangster story. And I grew up loving a lot of gangster movies. You know, your Untouchables, your Goodfellas, your Godfathers.
Right.
And you know, it's a gangster story, but yes, it's also that cop story. Jim Gordon becoming the Jim Gordon that we know and love. You know what I mean? But you know, all these characters are in there. You know, Bruce Wayne. There's a young Bruce Wayne character in there. And you know, there's a young Catwoman, and there's a young, there's a Riddler. You know, he's working at the GCPD kind of. You know, and there's there's a lot of nods to the Joker, but we don't really see him. And they even dipped into the comics to do the Owls storyline in season 2, the Court of Owls storyline in season 2, which I actually thought was pretty cool.
Which is a pretty cool storyline, but but is it done well at least?
I hadn't watched most of season 2. I only saw like the first part. I liked what I saw, but I will say this: as a comic book fan, like if you are, a comic book elitist, this might not be the show for you.
Okay.
Because it's not canon. You know, I mean, it's more on the lines of Smallville. Like they tried to do a prequel, but it ended up becoming its own thing, kind of.
Right.
That's kind of what this is. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be. He's not gonna eventually become the Batman of the comic books. He'll become Batman. You know what I mean? But this is, you know what I mean? It's kind of contemporary as well. You know, it's modern day. So you know it's just sort of set in this universe. You know, and it uses these themes. But I still think it's a good show. It might not be canon, but I think it's an excellent show.
Okay, yeah, no, I stopped watching it because to me it was, as you said, it's like if you're a comic book fan, it might not be as appreciative. But I'm like, why is he fighting? all the characters that Jim Gordon is fighting now in the Gotham show is not. I'm like, I don't want to see God. I want to see Batman fighting these villains. You know, like he got the Riddler, who's already in his like middle age. He's in his mid 20s, early 30s. Isn't he the same age as Batman? I'm like, so I didn't really care for it though. I mean, it's a good if it was a good noir story, it'd be fine. But it's the fact they had Batman in it. They have trying to have Selena Kyle. They have Pamela Isley too. I'm like, why are these characters in here if it's a Jim Gordon show? Like, what I wish they would have done if they would have done a Gotham Central comic show where it's still about the cops, but it's about them trying to take down the villains before Batman does. And there's a comic book called GCPD, which is about that, about the cops in Gotham City trying to beat Batman to the punch before before night comes, because that's when Batman comes out, right? And so I'm like, I wanted more of that, and I'm like, it's a good noir show, but it's not for me. Well, I don't know. Thoughts?
I don't know. that's pretty much. That's you know. I think we've expressed the viewpoints on Gotham. So I mean, I can't really talk about the season because I didn't watch the season. I watched season 1, which I mean, it was hit and miss, but right. I feel like it ended up pretty decently though. But yeah, it's kind of for something that's so heavily noir and gangster. It's oddly goofy, I'll say.
Is that a good thing though?
I don't know. I don't know that that's a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing. Okay. I mean, it's just if you have a show that takes place in Gotham, I mean, Batman fights some pretty colorful characters.
Exactly.
So it's hard to not be goofy and Batman at the same time.
I see what you're saying. All right, so let's move on to the next show. That's a Gotham talk. So the other show that you and I watch religiously, at least on the CW, I'll start with the ones that I watch that you don't watch, is Supergirl. And Supergirl's about Superman's cousin, Kara Danvers in this show, about coming to Earth, and that's her with the Flash, the crossover episode. And it's her becoming, Superman's already been around, and it's her trying to get out of the shadow of Superman. And I really like this. I'm surprised I liked the show much as I did. I thought it was going to be mostly for 12-year-old girls, but they brought in the Martian Manhunter, they brought in Indigo, and then they've hinted at Superman, but they never really showed him. But they did make an announcement that they cast Superman for season 2. And as a fan of that show, I kind of feel that's a bad thing because I want to see Superman. If it's going to be Superman, I want to be a show about focus on Superman and not his cousin. So I don't think casting Superman for Supergirl is necessarily a good thing. What do you think? Are you gonna watch Supergirl now moving to CW?
I just might. See, my only issue with watching it wasn't because it was Supergirl. I mean, I'll say it only mildly interested me to watch this. But I wasn't opposed to the show. I can't watch. I don't watch TV live, and I don't have a way to stream CBS shows.
Right.
So that's the only real reason that I hadn't checked it out.
Okay. But I think here's the thing: they did Martian Manhunter pretty good, and I'm surprised that they brought him in at all, because I'm like, the Justice League DC movieverse is so campy too that they're trying to bring all these characters in. I'm like, they're not. All right, here let me phrase that. The DC movies now for the DC Extended Universe, they're not doing them. There's characters I feel justice. Like Superman in the latest incarnation, to me, he looks like Superman. But he's not Superman. Batman was okay. Wonder Woman was okay, but the TV shows are a lot more faithful to the characters, and so that's why I was wondering if you would give it a maybe. I don't know anymore. If you thought it was a good idea.
Yeah. Oh no, now Superman being in Supergirl, I don't think that's it. I don't watch Supergirl, but I don't think Superman being in Supergirl is the simple fact that that's who I want to see.
Exactly.
If you put Superman in the show, it's like I don't care what Supergirl's doing now. I want to see Superman. I want to see him do everything that he's doing. No, you better change the name of the show to Superman featuring
Supergirl.
Yeah,
Superman
like
and
Super Cousins Power Hour.
Superman in the House of L, for lack of a better title. But I'm gonna give it a shot, but Supergirl was fun. What else? That's all I have on Supergirl right now. I don't want to say too much once you watch it.
What did you want? Oh, well, did you want
to? Anybody there?
Yeah, who's this?
Oh, this is Jor-El. I'm calling from a Verizon mobile phone. Now.
I can hear you now, Jor-El. What's up?
Well, it's very boring here in the Fortress of Solitude.
Aren't you dead?
Well, dead is, you can be dead. There's different levels of existence, as you will realize when you do the firecracker thing inside the gas leak, René. We don't get much television here in the Fortress of Solitude. The only cable channels I get are, well, cable access. So I have to watch the show.
Oh, so you've seen our show?
I feel that I should probably chime in since I do have some personal knowledge of the people that you speak of.
Yes. So, what do you feel about your niece and son? What do you feel about your son's latest portrayal in the latest movie, Batman vs Superman?
Oh, well, even us Kryptonians have taste, even though. But I do remember my niece. Her father was kind of a deadbeat.
How so?
Well, he was always borrowing the spaceship and always returning it half full with radiant fuel.
Does he look like this by any chance?
No.
No? No.
Well, as I would say.
Was that you? Was that your handiwork, Mr. L?
No. But
okay.
I'm glad that there's at least one other survivor of Krypton besides Cal, because, well, I was hoping that with super strength, super speed, X-ray vision, that he'd manage to find lots of women, but apparently he's having difficulty. So at least there's one other potential person to further the Kryptonian line. You know, extinction is not a very good thing for Kryptonians.
I'm so.
Does Cal have a girlfriend?
I think so. I think he's got a couple. Lana Lang, Lois Lane.
No. That's Clark Kent. I'm talking about my son, Kal-El from Krypton, not that person from Smallville.
I don't know. CJ, do you know if he's dating anyone?
Who Cal? I reached out to him last week, but he did not comment on his status. His Facebook status said it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Because even though I'm dead, I'd still prefer to see some grandchildren. I'm just hoping he's not just pleasuring himself in the sword of solitude.
I'm afraid of what would happen.
Aren't you the Fortress of Solitude?
Yeah.
What about that Amazonian princess? Is there a possibility that he might hook up with her?
You'd have to ask them, Mr. L. I don't know.
No, see, you're there and I'm dead. See, so you probably have more.
But how do you know about this Amazonian princess if you're dead?
Again, even though I am in the Fortress of Solitude and we don't get many cable channels, I think we still get Netflix. No.
And apparently Verizon service.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I also think there's a blue Blockbuster box somewhere down the street next to the North Pole Walmart.
The last one in existence is in the Fortress of Solitude.
Sadly, that is the case, just like my son.
Clark Kent is a champion for mom and pop shops, right, CJ?
Yes, sir.
But in regards to Cal appearing on television, hasn't he been demeaned enough by the movies to do television? I mean, be easy on my boy, will you? I mean, and try to find him a nice girl.
I'll try. I mean, he is Superman. I don't know what we can do for him.
Well, just because you have superpowers don't mean that you don't have other shortcomings. You should know that, René.
I do too well.
Anyways.
All too well.
Anyways, it looks like I'm about to hit my minutes for the month. So I'm gonna go now. And nice talking to you and your friend, the guy who looks like Cyborg without the implement. As you humans would say, peace out, bro.
Right on.
I can't.
Well, you heard it. You heard it from his dad, folks. Next time you see Superman on Tinder, swipe right.
Yes. Okay. That was was weird. We got Tony Stark, we got Bill Clinton, and we got Jor-El. Who's next on our to call this, CJ? I'm waiting for Jim Alexander. Sorry.
Me too. So you were talking about Supergirl. So did you want to give the season a like a rating or something?
Yeah, out of 5 stars, I would give it I give it 3.5. Because some of the dialogue is very cheesy. Some of the story points. The one thing that bugs me about Supergirl is that she has a team. She has a team of people supporting her. I'm like, why does Supergirl need teammates? Like, why can't she do it? She's Supergirl, right? Superman did it by himself. Why does she need all these people around her to do her missions or do her job? I guess to make her more human, but whatever. Who cares about humanity? I mean, the human character. But yeah, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I give it 3.5. So the other show we're gonna talk about is Arrow, that I stopped watching at season 3.5. There he is, Mr. Arrow. You want to give it a rundown, CJ?
Sure. So since the season's over, I'll just give a quick summary or whatever. At the end of season 3, if you guys watch Arrow, you know, at the end of season 3, Arrow and Felicity both quit the team. He's done with it, and they go off to live happily ever after. He defeats Ra's al Ghul, of course, and Malcolm Merlyn ends up the new Ra's al Ghul. So season 4 kind of picks up in the aftermath of that. It's a few months later, and Team Arrow, as they call them, are still hitting the streets. Mm-hmm. It's John Diggle and Speedy, Arrow's little sister, and the Black Canary, Laura Lance, are still doing their thing, but they're fighting this villain that basically is too much for them to handle. So they reach out to Oliver Queen to come back out of retirement. Him and Felicity, hey, come, we need your help. So it's basically like a return to they kind of you try to get out, but they keep pulling me back in. You know what I mean? Like, but this time he's changed. He's kind of a different Arrow, and he finally in season 4 takes the name of his comic book character's namesake of the Green Arrow. And that the significance being that he's different, he's changed. He's not just a killer, like, because when the show begins, like in seasons 1 and 2, he was a killer. Mm-hmm. He was more like the Punisher, and like slowly he's been becoming more and more like the comic book Green Arrow.
Okay.
So this season they introduced more magic stuff. Last season I think they had some supernatural stuff, but this season they were fighting a magical villain, or a villain who uses magic. Damien Dark is the name. And so I thought this season, I'm a fan of Arrow, but I really didn't like season 3. I thought season 1 was pretty decent. It started off kind of slow.
I hated season 1 of Arrow. I stopped. I hated season 1 because it's just so boring. I'm like, when season 1 to me reminded me of, they're trying to do Batman with Green Arrow. Like, he's mean, he's angry, he's killing people. And then I'm like, this isn't Green Arrow. But season 2, I thought was really great. Season 3, I told you, I stopped watching it because I'm like, what? This is ridiculous now. At one point, I only saw Arrow because of Barry Allen, and that what got me into it. But I saw episode 4 with the magic that they brought in Constantine, and that was okay, I guess. But I'm like, it's too, for lack of a better word, teeny boppy, if that makes sense. The series.
No, it makes sense, and I think that's a common problem with the CW anyway.
Yeah.
They have a specific audience,
right?
And they cater to that audience, like in all of their shows, and all of their shows do end up feeling like that to me, like this, with the exception of one that we're actually going to talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But as far as I really didn't like season 3. I thought it was bad. I was almost going to be finished watching the show, to be honest, after watching season 3. The fact that I even kept watching it is because I enjoyed what they did before. So I was just like, okay, well, it's earned enough for me to give it a try. You know what I mean? And so I was like, if episode 1 of season 4 doesn't grab my attention, like, I'm done. But it kind of did. They did this thing where they kind of basically gave us this little prophecy somebody was going to die during the season, and they kind of leapt forward and showed us. They didn't show who, but they did kind of play around with the idea of that throughout the season, tease different things happening to different people, and it kind of kept it fresh and kind of interesting. You know what I mean? Okay, well, we know someone's going to die, and like Oliver at the end of episode 1, season 4, is kneeling in front of the grave,
Right.
in front of someone's grave, and he's distraught, and he's just saying, okay, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill the bad guy, and so they were basically they're playing with this idea, you know what I mean? Who is it? Who's the person that's gonna die or whatever? Which I thought was fairly interesting. The season itself, the story was more interesting to me than season 3 was. They weren't doing as stupid things as they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more exciting too. I just felt like season 3 they were kind of floundering a lot, whereas this one they at least had more of a goal, a clear goal. You know what I mean? Yeah, there were still filler episodes. And
That was awesome. That was awesome. Continue, CJ.
Right up. No, yeah. But season 4, I thought it was a return to form. It wasn't as good as season 2. If you guys watch Arrow, season 2 is like one of the best.
Season 2 was amazing. Season 2 is great.
Yeah, it's one of the best like seasons of shows that I've been watching even. But season 4 is decent. I'm not a big fan of magic to begin with. So
neither.
that aspect, it's whatever. I would have rather him fight somebody more grounded because we have like these other CW DC shows that show different aspects of the universe,
right.
So it's like, well, we don't really need Arrow, a guy who's running around with a bow and arrow fighting magic villains. I mean, you got the Flash for that. You got Legends of Tomorrow for that, or Supergirl for that.
Exactly.
Matter.
And they brought that up in Supergirl too. They brought in some magic stuff, and that was done really well. I didn't see Arrow, so I can't comment, but it's okay. But speaking of Legends of Tomorrow, that's the next show we're going to talk about, which is an amalgam of the CW shows, which is characters from Arrow and the Flash, and they're coming together to form this super group, a weird, like a seamless version of the Justice League of America, but more fun, if that makes sense. And they're time traveling around.
Way more fun.
A lot more fun than the Arrow. And they're time traveling around to stop Vandal Savage. And I did not bring a picture of him until it just came to my mind right now. But Vandal Savage is their main villain. Thank you. And that's the team of the Team Legends of Tomorrow. And it's a weird team because they have people who keep reincarnating the Hawk people. They have White Canary, who's from Arrow. They have Firestorm, who showed up originally in The Flash. And then they have Captain Cold and Heatwave, who are villains. And it's...
And Adam.
And the Atom, that's right, the Atom. About Superman
from
3.
The Arrow.
From the Arrow, or I'd like to call him Superman Returns. Bad. Sorry, I couldn't help it. The Atom, or I'd like to call it Marvel's Ant-Man. DC's Ant-Man. What do you think, TJ?
I think it's a great show. I like what you're saying. It's like CW's version of Justice League, but more fun. I feel like it's though it's not Marvel, it's like to me it's like the television version of Avengers meets Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Because they're in the spaceship. But they're in the spaceship going through time, so it's elements of Star Trek almost.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
It's like Doctor Who with superheroes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I don't know why any geek wouldn't just love that to death. Like it's a great show, and I was excited for it when it was coming out, but I had some hesitation because how colorful the posters look and whatnot. It's like, okay, how can this not be super goofy?
But they pulled it off. I think they pulled it off. That they did it really well.
And they really even characters like I didn't like when they were in their individual shows, like Captain Cold and Heatwave. I thought they had terrible performances on the show. Like they had terrible performances on the show, The Flash. Like, but in this, like, every character is clearly defined.
Right.
Um, every character fits a spot on the team and like brings something to this team in the show, you know, and they play them off each other really well.
Okay, so what would you rate it? Because we have 4 minutes left of the show, and we want to get to the Flash. So what would you give this season? I would give it out of 5 stars. What would you give it?
4 out of 5.
Yes, I would agree because of the acting mostly. But we haven't Captain Cold. So now we're talking about the Flash, which we both watch and we both love. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, TJ. The Flash, who was first introduced in Arrow, and the Flash is about pretty much just a super guy who can run really fast and is fighting Reverse Flash, who is a main scene, who's pretty kind of corny, but I think they did him really, really well. And we have a comic book picture of Reverse Flash. There he is. That's Eobard Twain, who's the 21st century. And in this season 1 of the Flash, he killed Barry Allen's mom, which forced him to become, or kind of caused him to keep researching metahumans and weird events and stuff like that. What do you think, CJ?
Okay.
What would you like to add to it?
Well, yeah. Basically, he in season 1 he beats his nemesis,
right.
Reverse Flash. So season 2 picks up, and at the end of season 1, after he beats the Reverse Flash, it opens up some huge portal in the sky that's about to, destroy everything, like often it happens. When the dust clears from that, basically it brings the attention of a new villain, a new speedster villain, a bad
Zoom.
speedster, known as Zoom.
Zoom.
He's basically an evil error version of Reverse Flash.
Which sounds really, really stupid, but it is.
Yeah, like he's like almost he talks with Tony Curtis. Is that not Tony Curtis? What is his name?
Candyman.
Candyman.
Yeah,
so he has a perfectly evil sounding voice. Yeah. And like he has like dark eyes. He's like a demon or something. You know what I mean? But I think he's a cool villain. I think by the end, I liked what they were doing with Reverse Flash villainy in season 1. But I grew to appreciate by the end of season 2 what they were doing with Zoom.
Okay.
And I thought that he was a pretty cool villain by the end. First, I just kind of thought maybe he was just a little corny. He was just, like I said, like an eviler Reverse Flash.
Yeah. No. I wish we had more time, but we're out of time, CJ. We had too much fun talking about the other shows that we don't like as much, and we should have. 30. All right, so we have 30 seconds left. So would you say that they recommend watching? What show should they watch, CJ? Do you recommend?
I would watch. Arrow. If you're gonna watch from season 1, go ahead, give it a try. It doesn't stay awesome.
It doesn't.
Flash is pretty level. I think if you like episode 1, you're gonna be okay through the rest of it. Legends of Tomorrow, I think, is excellent. It's really fun. All
right, CJ. Sorry, I'm getting the rap signal from our crew.
Right.
We'll have to do it. We have to do more DC stuff and less Marvel stuff. But thank you for joining us. Thank you to the crew. Thank you, CJ, for joining us again, as always. We'll do another DC one more. We'll just do a Flash one by itself because I think it deserves its own show. What do you think, CJ?
I think this is your show, so whatever.
Why are you still on me? I'm just kidding. Okay. Bye.
Mm-hmm.